Okay, now we have not completed last week's question. And actually, I did ask you guys to try this out, correct or not? But I know you have not done it. Am I right to say that? Harvard, do you do it? Okay. Birkin, do you do it? No, right? Yeah. Okay. Honestly, I understand Sec 2, you are pretty busy in school also. Okay. There are also quite a lot of homework and you get home pretty late as well. Coming to this tutorial, I am very thankful because I know when you end at 9 p.m., some of you have to rush to finish your homework, okay, before you can go and sleep, right? So this I understand. All right, so I will just go through with you for this question. You can see the screen, right? Now, question 13, very popular kind of question that can be asked. Of course, many of you are. Okay, Andrea, thank you for telling me that. Chemical changes, okay. Right, and the heat, right? Okay, no problem. I think that should be pretty okay. Andrea, can you drop me a text privately? Then I can send you some notes for you to look at and maybe some questions for you to practice. Yeah. Okay. Now this kind of question, I can tell you for Sec 2, right? One of the very important chapter will be chemical changes. There will be one entire question minimum. Okay, for those of you who are not doing IP, let's say you are doing the usual syllabus, okay, already you will be tested one or two questions fully on chemical changes. Then, of course, MCQ, there will be a few questions on chemical changes. So what kind of question can be tested? Now, if you look at question 13, this is not a full question. Okay, this is like if it's a section C kind of question, it's only going to take up one small part. Yeah, because every question in section C will be 10 marks each. You know that, right? Okay, so there will be a mock assessment, mock exam coming up that will fall in the tutorial 19 to tutorial 22. Okay, so we actually have a mock exam paper for y'all to try out, but we will be going through the paper in 4 tutorials. Okay, we are going to split the questions into 4 tutorials to go through them. Then you will then see how a full question looks like. All right, so make sure you all try out the mock exam paper. Then while we go through the questions, right, I will let you know how many marks each question actually take and how many marks you can score. So after we have gone through the entire 4 weeks, you add up your marks, right? You know where you stand. Okay, whether you can get your A1, A2, yeah, because you know that you have certain targets, okay, you want to achieve at the end of the year so that you can get into a better class next year. That's why you need to track your own progress. Can? Now, so they want you to describe with the aid of a diagram. Whenever they say with the aid of a diagram, you need to insert the diagram. Without the diagram, marks will be lost. Okay? So when you have the diagram, you also need to write down, a description, okay, for the experiment to show that seashells contain carbonate. We learn in this particular chapter, chemical changes, the 3 reactions of acid, right? Acid plus metal, acid plus carbonate, and acid plus base. Okay, the base that we talk about is the alkaline. Now, this particular one, carbonate, whenever you want to prove that something has carbonate, you will fall back on the acid reactions. So think about the acid plus carbonate reaction. In this case, we have hydrochloric acid. Are you able to use other acid? Of course you can, no problem. If you want to choose nitric acid, then you put in nitric acid. Okay, at your level, you can choose any one you want. Okay, because you still don't have to write the chemical equation part. If you need to write that part, it can be a little bit difficult. Yep, so seashell contains carbonate. The moment you put seashell into the acid, at home, you can do this yourself. Okay, at home, you can be using vinegar plus eggshell. Okay, if you have seashell, you can do likewise. But if you don't have seashell, you can work with eggshells. You will see a lot of bubbling, right? Okay, so you see a lot of bubbling, and these bubbles are actually carbon dioxide gas, because we already know, okay, acid plus carbonate, it will give us three products. A salt, okay, plus water, plus, okay, Jimin, you gave me a shock, plus carbon dioxide gas. Okay, so we only need to prove this part. Okay, so the bubbling shows that, there's a gas given out, and definitely it's going to be carbon dioxide. But how do you prove that it's really carbon dioxide? Because it's colorless, it's odorless, it doesn't talk to you, it doesn't say that I am carbon dioxide. So you need to carry out a test, and this is the test, the lime water test. What are you supposed to observe? You will see a white precipitate forming in lime water. Okay, so if you write out everything nicely, look at the steps. Place seashells in a test tube, okay, add acid. They didn't even say the specific acid, but you can write it down if you wish to. Okay, so you will see a lot of bubbling, a colorless gas is given off. Then add a stopper to the test tube. This is the stopper. Okay, the stopper has this delivery tube attached to it. You have it in the science lab also. Okay, so this delivery tube will deliver or channel the gas into another test tube which contains lime water. Yep, so if white precipitate is seen in lime water, carbon dioxide gas is present. So this shows that seashells contain carbonate, all right, as the reaction between acid and carbonate releases carbon dioxide gas. What you can do also, let's say you don't want to write this part, okay? You don't want to write this part. You can use this equation, word equation, okay? So you can write down this particular equation here. Okay, so after you talk about, the seashell contain carbonate, okay? So you can write down this equation here to prove that, this is how come that carbon dioxide will be given off if, let's say, seashell really has the carbonate, okay? But if, let's say, no white precipitate is seen, the seashells does not contain carbonate. Any questions so far? So this is a structured question, structured answer, sorry, a structured way of presenting the answer step by step. Can? No need to copy. I will send you the PDF, right after this. Because if you copy, we have to wait very, very long. The answers are too long. Okay, question 14. Again, it's repeated. It is again the acid and carbonate reaction. So if you take a look here, I highlighted powdered solid acid and powdered carbonate. One thing you must note is when they exist in powdered form, okay, or in tablets form, that means it's dry, all right? When it's dry, right, acid reactions cannot take place. Okay, one thing you need to note, you probably will only hear this in Sec 3 when you learn acid, bases, and salts. But right now, I'm going to tell you, when it is in the solid form, okay, it does not behave like an acid. It has to be dissolved in water. All right, so that's why we keep all these medication in solid form, in powdered form. Why? Because only when it is activated with water, then it will behave as an acid. Clear? So the pills are sealed in a foil, okay, and when placed in water, so this part comes in, there are bubbles given off. All right, so this is the explanation to why, I should write down something. Why is it that, there is no reaction at first, but placed in water, then you see a reaction? Okay, so in dry solid state, acid reactions cannot take place. So name the gas that's given off. Yep, it's carbon dioxide. So the generic equation is here. Okay, I saw your previous week's answer. Those who answered, you did fairly well. So I can see that you have answered correctly. Now, Why is it necessary to keep the pills actually sealed in a foil? Now, we want to prevent moisture, I explained just now, right? The absence of water, okay, will not cause any reaction to take place. So you can still keep this medication until you need it. Okay, only when you consume it, you drink water, then this acid will start to react with the carbonate and help to solve any problem that you're facing. Now, so the purpose of keeping it sealed nicely, okay, is to prevent moisture from entering the pills or reaching the pills, okay, because in the presence of water, okay, acid and carbonate will react and release carbon dioxide. Okay, so when that happens, let's say the medication, let's say there is a tiny hole in that foil, okay, the medicine cannot be consumed anymore. It is not going to serve its purpose, right? Now, what is the purpose of having the gas created? Now, when there's a lot of bubbling, it also ensures the content of the pills can be well mixed. Okay, instead of you stirring, you see the effervescence, the bubbling, that is causing the entire mixture, to be moving around. Okay, so that will allow the mixing of the contents of the pills. Any question? Okay, so that's about it for last week's tutorial. I'll be sending in the chat during break time. Okay, let's go on. Now, today's lesson, I will just be going through some of the slides. This topic is not something new to you, right? So when you have done the questions, right, you realize it's not so difficult. Something you have learned in which level? Can you tell me? Jimmy, when did you learn it? Unmute lah. Why? How come you all don't like to unmute? Jimin, sure not. You learn ecosystem in P3. Pei Yin said learn in P6. My God, Jimin, you accelerated learner. You jumped 4 years ahead, 3 years ahead. My goodness. Okay, you learn in P3, they learn in P6. Yeah, it's actually taught in P6. And MOE purposely wants this to be taught in P6. Do you all know that? Okay, because let's see, last year, the Sec 2 students, right? The Sec 2 students last year, they did not learn this at all. Do you still remember during the COVID outbreak, you had to stay at home, remember, for a period of time? So the P6 students at that time, they actually were not taught the entire section. Yeah, so they don't know what is food chain, food web. They never learn all this, because it's all taken out of the syllabus. So their PSLE exam does not include that. Okay, but for you had to. Okay, so yeah, all of you will have to. You actually did learn that, and you set the questions for PSLE also. But if you have noticed, the PSLE booklet that you bought, okay, those year papers, you don't have that section. Those questions are missing because they were not tested at that time. Yeah. Jimmy, I don't know about you lah. Maybe you special. Okay. Anyway, so for this topic, we already have gone through it before, so it's going to be pretty easy. But of course, there are new things for you to learn as well. Okay, so under the topic ecosystem, you need to explain the terms habitat, population, community in a named ecosystem. So you are not, let's say, these words are not foreign to you, right? So if you can recall, or maybe when we go through the slides together, yes, Wesley, please go. Okay, when we go through the slides together, you can refresh all these memory. Now, you need to identify a habitat and the organisms living in it. Then you also need to explore how the physical factors, there are only air, water, light, but there are a few more in the slides later on, how they actually affect the life of organisms. Okay, then understand the interrelationship between various organisms in a community. Now, this interrelationship is something new. Okay, it's something new. Added on knowledge not just those simple ones that you learn in P6. Now, understand that habitat together with